welcome back to the X-Wing Fighter Part 7. Today we're actually going to work on the engine intakes and getting the engines, back half of the engines glued on. Gets the LED wire and light inside the engines, so let's head over to the bench and take a look. Well, hello and welcome back. I went ahead and did the engines and glued them in, and then glued down these parts. This side is the landing gear side. Got them on and clamped them down. I can take these clamps off now. Got the wires run through their notches. That's all I had to do, is just do a little notch there. This cover, these whole covers, they have like a wall and an opening, like the hood sticks past that wall, so I didn't even have to drill anything in these. It's just pretty much cover right over. The top ones I think were a little different. I think they're completely hollow. Yeah, you can still see through in there on the top ones. Or the bottom ones, because they needed this to stay to accommodate these opening for the landing gear. They were a little different. But it was a little tough getting these on. These are still a little bit forward than they should be. The thing I found out is, like, I just stuck these so that, you know, the tips of these engines, that little spout is going into that hole, which is what we had the wire going through. And then I glued these, and then when I went to put these on, this top part was hitting, you know, that scoop that's scooping down to go into that hole. And so it kept them a little forward. I got them back. The one I had, this one here, I think I had to actually grind on the inside, because it was, and this is engine's no more further than that one, but I had to grind it on it and file a notch for that scoop to tuck under. You can't see it at all, but that was the only way to get that to fit its back as far as I can, and it's still got a little notch there that, you know, from this edge to the edge of that. I'm gonna have to file do a little filing to make those less, you know, because when these go on the engine intakes, there's going to be a gap there. Now most of it I think will get covered by that plate, so that's okay. So it might be okay. I mean, you might see it on this side, but that's where the fuselage is. And I might be okay with that. I'll give them a slight little filing to make it such a non-abrupt. How's this one? That one's not pretty good. This one's not bad. But again, I found the most trouble with the top ones. Yeah, that one's real. That one's a good ways out. But like I said, I think, yeah, there's a piece that glues right on here and it hugs around the intake, so it'll hide it from the side you view it. Underneath, you'd see it. Yeah, massively. So we're gonna have to putty that, and I might use something simple as spot putty. But then again, these are going to go on last. I'll figure it out. Let's see how much it really bothers me. Yeah. Then again, like I said, I might be able to file. But I really ain't going to be able to file that much. try to file on a circle. Because what I take off here, I got to kind of slowly take off that. Couldn't be as simple as just an edge. The whole edge I could file. I mean, which is really what I could do. But you'd lose about that much of the detail. But I could do that. I could just file this whole thing back and then just glue this on like that. That might be the option. Is to just totally file those. That means we get rid of the registry. That's okay. You can just go in here and look at that. That would be the quickest solution. And that might be the solution I go for. Just totally taking a file and grinding them right off. Yep, that's what we'll do. So, anyway. That's great. So we got all those, we made sure these had enough room. And I can still pull them too, that's what's so great. And have to tack the wires at all. Make sure they all can reach to the, yeah, this will be the furnace ship. So next, yeah, and I got this cockpit painted the German gray. Not much to really light in here. I think I'm just going to stick a small SMD LED back here. Light up those 2, 4, 6 instrument dials that I just drilled. I found a drill bit that fit so perfect that you still have the detail ring around the dial or the display screen, which is totally not accurate to the X-Wing. They had like a square box display going this way, and I believe. But you gotta remember, this is the first, this was done in 1978, one of the first kits, if not the first X-Wing, I think, I don't know. But yeah, so I'll just put window maker in there and hit them with some color, each dial to make them a different color. And then any ambient light that escapes under here and just lights up his leg and his face and stuff. It's okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to get maybe a couple buttons on here to glow, but I don't know. I mean, I could try it by trying to do a fiber optic and bringing the fiber optic around and seeing if it'll pick up some of that light if I do it just right, but I'm not worried about it. I think I'm going to paint the actual square areas black and then do, color knobs and buttons and switches. But there ain't much really there, so. But I'll do that panel black because I know the X-Wing had black spots. There's no detail on this upper spot. I'm not even going to worry about trying to make it. I could probably use some thin tubing styling or the rods to make some of the piping that was coming up through here. There's all that corrugating piping that's supposed to be back here. I could do a guitar string, but I'll have to see. That wouldn't be too hard. And there's room in here because these don't fit tight, so. But that's what we're going to do to that. And then I think I'm going to actually go through and paint this all black. This edge and that whole back half black. And then tape just the seat area because there's no real defined seat. Kind of has a scoop and it meets this back wall. But I think I'll make that back wall the cutoff where it starts to curl for the figure. I'll put a piece of tape there to keep that straight black, and then this black back here I'll mist with some of the German gray. Yeah, because I think I did something similar to that to the Augustine one, and it looked really cool. It makes it dark back there, but not quite black. It's a mixture. And then it'll detail all that up. But I could probably get a couple of those corrugated tubes and drill some holes because they really go down in here, in these areas. They come over and go down. So I could do that. That's not hard. I have to see how the figure fits in there first. Are his hands more down like this, or is he like this? And being that he's probably a airplane pilot that they just repurposed for a Star Wars figure. Cutting corners. But yeah, I also decided that I'm going to do some shading, pre-shading, which would be cool. Oh, I also noticed these dimples. We might have noticed this on camera when I glued these on. There's a dimple there. There's a dimple there. This one's dimpleless, which is funny. And then you know there's one on this one. And yeah, I might leave a couple on there as like hits. That one looks like a actual on purpose. So does that one. Yeah, they all do. I mean, I can hit them with spot putty quick, because that dries quick. So that's probably what we'll do. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to grind those. Just grind them right off and glue these right on. All we have to do is hold them level to that roundness of this piece, and then it's where it needs to be. So that's simple. Don't need all this registry. See how they have a little notch? It's to fit that. All I have to know is those notches go away from the bottom of the wing. Man, and the mold release pins, they're prevalent inside these engines. Intakes. These I'm really proud with how they came out. To have to cut that hole back and then stick these things in there. I was hoping to leave just a lip so it had something to catch when I push those in. But it's alright. Yeah, they look good. And I didn't worry about getting the paint all the way inside there. Really good with the black. And that looks kind of cool. I was hoping it would give that uneasy burned effect, especially when we throw a wash in there. It'll pick up that dirt over the white speckles. So yeah. Eventually we're going to have to paint these black because these go over top. And you don't want to see white in there. I might even do it like a dark gray so it looks kind of charcoaly behind those grills. I think that's what we'll do. Like the German gray, like this type of gray. That burnt blacky gray look. So next I think is we should fix stuff on here. This putty should be good. That I cut those knobs off that held the wings together in the closed position. I was hoping that it would be, you know, once we add all this, it would be thick enough not to show this big point sticking. So you'd had your wing open, you would have this nipple sticking out. But I get it, what they're coming with to keep the wings closed. Come up with a mechanism to lock them in. You would have to do something here and here. Because you can never manufacture it where it wants to, you know, not lay flat. So they thought of those pegs to click them in. You got to remember, a lot of times these older models were made like almost like to be toys. So wiring wise, we're good. So we'll clean up those points, get these filed. Yeah, I'm glad they have that detail that gets glued on here and then wraps around the engine so that'll hide anything there. But now it's not really going to mean anything. If we file that smooth, it's going to look good. So we're going to do a little shading in here. I'm going to take some black and airbrush and in here and in here in those areas. I want to try to file some of this, you know, 20th Century Fox that I didn't notice on that wing. But yeah, we'll shade in these areas. Get a little pre-shading going. Maybe in these creases a little bit, just to add shadowing in those creases. I don't know if I'm going to do much up on here. Maybe in that crevice, like just kind of. Maybe these. Well, I think these. No, those get colored. This gets like a gray, and only certain ones. So maybe I'll hit this detail here. Maybe the knurls on those, and do the same on the top and bottom of the fuselage. So that's really going to be it. We're just going to prep this to get painted, because I think I am going to paint at least a lot of the top, at least what put together, because the old cockpit thing, there's no good way to good way to tape off this area. If this was to be put together and this is in there, back here I can just put some tape up and just tape those windows off, and then go back in and hit it with the gray. But here I could lay a piece of tape, but see, I want to get these edges white. But I guess that won't matter, because the canopy is going to get closed. It's always going to be a permanent close, because, you know, it doesn't have, they didn't build a hinge system for it, and that's always going to be closed. I mean, I could always put the canopy on and just mask it all up. You know, I guess if I have the windows here, I might as well put the windows in that. Yeah, there's gaps there that I can get some of that corrugated lines going in there. Just a couple wound guitar strings. Go for like a, you know, like a D and stuff. And then you just paint them black, and they look like corrugated hoses. And being that they're guitar strings, you can kind of get them bent, you know, especially the small ones. You know, don't use the low strings. Use the two higher wound ones. And you check gauges too, because different guitar gauges will work. Just like the non-wound work great for being metal conduit for electrical. If you're doing like a wall and you want to make it look like a boxes here, and you want to run that, make it look like a piece of metal conduits running. That unwound guitar string works great, because you can put the bend in it, and it looks just like EMT piping that they run wires through. And take a little piece of the rod, styrene, the solid rod, and it comes down pretty small, depending on the scale of the thing you're doing, and you just cut it like a little wafer, and you glue that on there, and that looks like those little round junction boxes. And you can run those thin guitar non-wound ones as like the conduit. It works great. I did that in the Falcon. Yeah, but there's no real good way. It's not like I can stick tissue paper in there, unless I go straight through and just glue the canopy on, mask off the windows. You know, mask off all these windows and just blow paint over it, and then come back and do the blue for the canopy, because I got to do it back here. That might be what I do. That way I can get in here and seam all this. Because here in this part, it doesn't matter, because it kind of lays up on a lip on the lower half. But when you get about here, that lip slowly fades away, and what I'm using is this panel is like the last panel line that doesn't go to the bottom half. This one here does. So then from this part on, I want seamless, at least this center seam. This here gets all hidden because it actually doesn't sit flush. It actually sets on a lip, on an edge, which it's supposed to. That's how the X-wing actually is. It's kind of like this scoop here. It's flowing back, and then it slowly fades away to about here. And then we have to fix this around the cone. So there's not a lot of puttying to be done. That's it, really. I think from here and then the nose cone, the rest should fit nice and tight as long as it fits down tight. So yeah, I think let's just bite the bullet, glue the canopy right on, and just mask the windows off, and then, you know, we'll paint the blue all in one shot. So yeah, that won't be bad. Okay, so that solves how I want to. It's always coming in the order of operations of how you want to do stuff. There's always multiple ways. But what's going to work best for you for how you're doing this shit. And adding wiring and lighting changes things a lot. And how you're going to paint, how much you got to putty. The more you can putty when they're in plastic, and the more you can glue while they're in plastic, it's nice. But that's not always an option. A lot of times you got to do sub-assemblies. You put a wing and part together, you putty it, you paint it. But then you have to put it to the main hull. It's kind of like the saucer. You want to, on an Enterprise, you want to paint the whole saucer while it's in halves, but then you got to put it together, and then you got to fix that seam, and you might have done some detail work. So it's all like, how much do I want to mask? And it'd been so much nicer, you know. And you got all those windows you got to mask. Or it's easy to paint them when they're not in, and then yeah. So it's like, do you want to mask a lot of windows, or do you want to paint them and putty and fix an edge? You're going to have to putty the edge anyway, but it's so much easier when there's just plastic on plastic. But sometimes that's not as bad to do than masking a lot of little windows. Or I haven't tried like Boyd does, where he doesn't put, some kits he doesn't put the plastic in windows in at all, and just goes in and uses Window Maker. I haven't tried that yet. But anyway, I'm just rambling again, as I do a lot. So, yeah, I'm going to end this here. I'm going to clean these up, and we'll come back. Yeah, I'm going to file all these off. And, which is really just probably going to be as simple as starting off with this guy. We can do a little bit of that on camera. We're going to start off, clear this bench a little bit. The old flexi file, I like that thing. Let's take my Dremel tool. I'm just going to get rid of all the... I wonder if I can... Hey, that might be an idea. This would be a little more rougher. I got this hobby saw. Yeah, this would be a pain. I gotta order a little vise. But this would be the best way if I could. Nah, maybe not. Yeah, that's just because there's no way for me to really see what I'm doing. I'm afraid I'd waver and have this weird. But that's a cool little tool, a little hobby saw, which I could use so many times on stuff, and it gives me different blades. 2 packs of different blades. Oh, and each pack has, I guess it's 3 types of blades. You know, a little hooked one, more of a stiffer, which is what I should use if I wanted to cut that. More of a thicker, stiffer one, and then the thinner one that's a little more flexy, so you could actually curve. And it gives you 2 boxes of these. 2 boxes of 2. So that was great. But anyway, I think this is going to be the best way. Because a lot of them don't need a lot. And it's mainly getting rid of this lip here. That's just trying to glue. There we go. And like I said, the Dremel I'm just using to get the mask part off. So I'm not spending so much time filing. I'm not trying to take it all the way down with a Dremel. That's always bad. Unless you got squares that can keep this square and that square. But yeah, that did the trick. We don't need all that stuff. We need it to fit tight. And I liked my engines where they were, and that was more important. I didn't want that gap where you could have looked back here and said, oh, that's not going all the way in that hole. And then we'll just take a flat file, use this as your edge because it's going to get hidden anyway, so you can scratch it up. No big deal. I did that pretty good. I can't rest on that engine. That's the hard. Most of the hardest things with some modeling is you just never have a place to hold things. Like I just busted that engine off. See? I should have, well, you can't tell until you get all those on. Like I said, you're using that. This big fat part here gives you a great square. And you can come up with your piece that's going to go there. And check it. Yeah, that's actually coming out better than I thought as far as quickness. Wow, now that's better. Yeah, as simple as that. And come in and clean it up with some hand sandpaper. Oh, look at that. And wow, that fits tight with no gaps. That solves that problem. And I just got to do it 3 more times and glue an engine back on. Ooh, bastard. And that's just because it had a lot of paint to deal with. Well, let's, before we do all that, Guess I could have put these on first and then slid the engines in. Maybe that would have made it a little more easier. I'm not sure. All right. Off with you. Like I said, a lot of them with the Dremel, I'm just getting rid of this lip that was supposed to fit inside that. Because the actual edge that's keeping me back is the other part of the... You gotta try to keep yourself square. But like I said, if I know if I just take that part off with the Dremel, then the rest I can hit with the file. Because the rest of it's not a lot, but it's enough to be an annoying. Get rid of those burrs. And I always want to start, so I have this as square. Be careful how my hand hits that one. I'll bust that one off. You're always going to run into these little hiccups, especially with these older kits. They all can't be Bandai, unfortunately. And especially back, back then. But the nice thing about it, and that's kind of why I like grabbing some of these older kits, they may not be the most accurate, but it gives you more opportunity to do some scratch building on something. You're less likely to do it on a nice Polar Lights, Enterprise, or something like that. But that's pretty much got really nice detail, or like a Bandai kit. You're just gonna put it together, and those are great to build, especially if you're building like your hero, style, whatever ship you're building. But sometimes it's nice. Like my D'Agostini is really nice detail, really nice everything. I mean, you build detail that you never get to see because, like, you just didn't snap two half cylinders together that have detail on the outside like this. For these laser cannons, you actually built the part inside it that's supposed to be the, if you got one of those cross cuts of the X-Wing and you see the mechanics inside under these panels. You actually built that part. Same thing, you built all these parts, all these engine pieces, all these parts that are underneath these canopies. You built all the things that are inside this engine assembly. It was crazy. You never get it unless you take that part off and pop it apart. Because that is a snap together kit too, and screws. So I did start at first, I think, on X-Wing glue and stuff, but then I ended up it all snaps together so well. And then stuff that needed the strength or were loose, I would give it a little drop of glue, but you didn't have to go crazy with it with the glue. A lot of things snapped and fit and went together that made, like these for instance, on these parts, you would pull them out, they slid over a nub that was half on this part and half on that part, so that actually this cap and the other cap here held these together. It was brilliantly done. So I can actually get in on the D'Agostini and fix the light if I had to. All I do is pop this bottom piece off, unscrew that, unplug this cannon, and then it'll all pop apart. And that's what I liked. That I can repair stuff if I have to. Same thing with the Falcon. I did all my sides on the Falcon, on the D'Agostini Falcon, which is 3 foot. I saw this on Models by Chris Olson. It's all die cast. The whole framework is die cast, and the handles and everything interior all sit inside that. Well, the whole putting the top half and the bottom half of the Falcon together is those side metal pieces get screwed on. You screw them to one part and then you put it down and you screw them to the other part of the ship. Then they wanted you to glue the panels to that. Well, I made those panels magnetic so I can pull them all off real easy, get to those screws, and I can pull the whole Falcon apart. Besides, it still has the engine piece, like the actual studio model that comes out, so I can access the circuit board without taking the whole ship apart. That's still cool that they did that. They did the screws that are authentic to the actual, where the 6 engine grills are. Yeah, that whole piece lifts off just like the actual miniature, which is cool. Alright, so let's do a test of this one. See if we got it. Yep. All she needs is a quick little cleanup to get rid of, to hide all our crimes. Clean up that burr. I'm really happy how the glue, that's why I like those thin glues. It sealed that seam right up. You didn't even have to putty it. You just sand it. It melts it so together, it's like a solid piece. I love that. And there we go. That's nice. You can't even tell we were digging around on that. And where's that engine piece? Ah. And we set that on there, and that looks great. Yep. If you're really looking, you can see how these pieces are crooked, even though this edge is square. The wing must do something. This part of the ring isn't as thick as this part of the ring, but no one will ever be the wiser. Once you slam all those pieces on there, yeah. Yep. See a little high spot right here. Main thing is you just don't want to tilt that way. But alright, so this is that wing is fixed completely. While we're here, let's clean up the putty. In here, this should have completely dried now. Yeah. I did a light sanding last night on it. Because you want to put a good amount of putty so it's really, because it does shrink, and especially when it's filling a hole. If you made it to fit flush when it was wet, when you come back, it's definitely going to be gone. It's going to shrink, and you're going to see just the lower divot. There we go. Sand it off beautifully. So yeah, I think we are good besides gluing that engine back on. I think we're completely good with this wing. Cleaning up some of the irregular scratches. Make them all kind of similar. Yeah, so let's glue this engine back on. So now you do get to see glue an engine back on. Sounds like it's raining out. I don't remember it's supposed to be raining out. Oh, you're always going to curve right at the end. Not the way you want. Looks like you're right there. Come on. Alright, we gotta get some gouaches because there's just not a good clean surface. I should really file all this off. sure my detail is right the way I want it. We're good. I'm going to bypass that because I think this dries quick enough for this situation. That's where it's harder now to hit. It's the cooling of that. Piece there. I can't quite reach in there. There we go. All right, we'll let that cure, but we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put these in the same state as that. That wing is completely ready. Everything's sanded. The engines are glued back on. Wires are running through them. Notched. The engine fronts are now square. Yeah, we're in good shape. So we just got to do the same to this one, and then we can start doing some pre-shading in these areas that I want. Maybe zip, and maybe a little bit here, maybe a zip back on these back parts, and yeah, very cool. So I will see you shortly. Maybe we'll go over to paint booth and do that quick. Show you a little bit of pre-shading. And until then, I'll see you soon.